Hi, I want to talk today about how to start a research paper. Research papers are different from most other kinds of papers because you're trying to have an argument for yourself and really looking for something to say from your own point of view. So you're not trying to just describe something or compare something. You're really trying to find something out and answer a certain question, have an argument for yourself. Best place to start is starting with what you already know. So if you're given a certain topic, say the Zapatista uprising in Mexico in 1994, that's still a very broad topic and you're going to need to narrow it down because otherwise you could end up with a 15-page paper just explaining the events that happened. That's not a research paper. So start writing out what you already know. Maybe you know nothing and that's okay. But think about other things that you do know about, other cases of rebellions maybe, or if you're viewing if you're talking about a certain book, what are some other authors that have written things that might be similar? Starting with what you do know will kind of help get you thinking before you start reading things. So, think about other things that connect to your topic, not just the topic itself. The next thing you need to think about is what your sources will be. Now there's two types of sources. There's primary sources and there's secondary sources. There are other kinds, but for our purposes today, we just need to think about primary and secondary sources. A primary source is something that was written at the time that something occurred, or somebody with direct knowledge of the thing. So this would be newspapers, this would be journals, letters, anything that was written at the time of something happening, or somebody with first-hand knowledge. A secondary source is things like articles, books, journals, magazines, anything that was produced after something, and somebody who's looking at something and writing about it. Not just writing about themselves or their own experience, but usually looking back and bringing in other research and talking about that as well. Secondary sources are great to help provide context for your own arguments, and they're also great to help give you some background knowledge before you start looking at a topic. So in that way, secondary sources can actually be a really good place to start. Primary sources are usually what form the meat of your argument, however. So if you're looking at an example would be school curriculums in the 1960s and what types of things were being taught in American or Canadian classrooms. You might want to start with those direct sources themselves. Where do you find primary sources? Libraries. Almost always, without fail, libraries are the best place to go. University libraries invest a huge amount of time and money to build up great collections of things. You can certainly search for things easily online. You can look for stuff online. My only warning would be is that so wherever you're looking for your source or wherever you find something, you make sure that it is an actual academic source that you can use. If you're not sure, ask your professor, ask your instructor, whatever. Make sure that you can use it because it might look like something that's real, but unfortunately with the internet and anonymity, you can never be too sure, so it's good to just double check on those. After you've looked at some primary sources, start writing down what have you found out? What are some things that are starting to come to your mind? This is going back to the whole idea of writing down what you know. Starting with what you know and what you found out kind of leads you through this progression where you'll eventually end up having some questions, which is the next part. Taking the questions that you have and starting to think about your topic in ways that maybe people haven't thought about it before. An example is, I just wrote a paper about World War I war letters. Now, people have definitely compiled a lot of collections of war letters, but I was looking for how soldiers were constructing notions of time, and specifically how they were thinking about the future. To my knowledge, no one's done that. That's what makes research. It's something new, a new way of approaching it. Especially in fields of gender studies and sexuality, there's a ton of stuff to think about. So when you're looking at your sources, think about not just the stories that they're telling and the information that they're giving you, but what are they not giving you? What are they not telling? And maybe there's something there that you can find out. Sometimes it leads to a dead end and there's no more way you could get more information, That's okay. You still learn something about it. Now, when you have all of these questions, you want to take a look at them, and what is the most interesting one? What is the thing that you're most curious about? That is going to be your research question. Research papers should always start with a question to answer. Having an argument means you have to find something out, and I think some people try to write their papers by coming out with a really strong statement and then just trying to back up that statement and make connections. While that's certainly one way of writing a paper, usually it's a lot easier and more interesting for yourself if you're starting with a question, and as you're writing your paper, you're answering that question. Then you can go back, rework your thesis, which will become the answer to the question. What do you think the answer to the question is? That's your thesis. Your whole paper will back it up. This is just the beginning. Good luck, Godspeed, and we'll see you next time.